Hello and welcome once again. So this is experiment number 2. We just concluded experiment 1 and we can see the output of experiment 1 here. So going without taking much time, we just go straight to experiment 2. This topology is what we are configuring over and over again. So we have wiped out the previous configuration and the previous provisioning that we did, and we can confirm that before we move on. So show IP protocol shows us that no routing protocol is configured. Show IP interface brief shows us that just the two interfaces required are configured. For router 2, show IP protocol, no routing protocol configured. Show IP interface brief, just the interfaces required are configured. And router 3, show IP protocol, no routing protocol. Show IP interface brief shows just the required interfaces are configured. And finally, for router 4, show IP protocol, no interface configured, no routing protocol configured, and show IP interface brief, just the required configuration is there. So without taking much time, we go and then start experiment 2, which is bubbling.sh here. Okay, we execute that, and like I mentioned, just the first experiment will require us inputting manually. So subsequently we'll just press yes at this point, and then this takes us to the checkpoint. We can see that the configurations here aligns with what we have on the topology. So yep, so with that, we just press Y here again for the playbook to be generated, and then once the playbook is generated by ChatGPT, as usual, we will execute the playbook on on the router, and then see what the outcome would be. So let's just wait for ChatGPT to respond with the required playbook for execution on the network. So first we go into router 1. Since that is the playbook that is being generated now, let's prepare for it while we wait for the playbook to be generated. So like I mentioned earlier, our prompt appears to be long, and that's because we have to instruct ChatGPT to give it very defined instructions. Otherwise it may come forth with certain features that we do not want. So the playbook is out, and we'll just execute it on the network, and that's it. First, the routing protocol is going to be configured, because that's the format, the first command lines there. Then after that, the loopback interfaces will be configured, and that has been completed. And the prompt for the second router is being generated now and being sent over to ChatGPT. While that is going on, let's confirm what we have here. So we can see that the routing protocol has been configured, that's OSPF, and the networks we have also been configured according to our requirement. So I will also check IP interface brief, and we can see that the two loopback interfaces have been configured according to our topology. So this is a pass mark for ChatGPT for router 1. Let's just hold on and see the playbook it will generate for router 2, and then execute the same on the network. So again, the playbook has been generated, and we will click on yes for it to execute on the network. First, the loopback interfaces will be configured, then after that the OSPF will be configured, and then EIGRP. We can see that adjacency, OSPF adjacency has been established between router 1 and router 2 over here, and every other configuration is completed. Bubbling has gone back with the prompt sent to generated so that it could be sent over to ChatGPT for generation of the required playbook for router 3. So while that is being done, let's just confirm what we have here. Show IP protocol. So we can see we have OSPF configured here, and permit me to just expand this since we don't need this topology for now. Okay, so and OSPF configured with the required 2 networks, and EIGRP also configured with the required 2 networks. So we can see EIGRP here, and OSPF networks also configured here according to the requirements. Okay, so show IP interface brief. We can see that the 2 loopback interfaces have also been configured here for router 2, and when we do show IP route, right now we expect that we should be able to see the networks. This router 2, we should be able to see these 2 networks on router 1. We should be able to see .10 and .20 on router 1. So, and that exactly is the case. We can see .10, we can see .20, and then we can also see 172.168 here. So that is fine. The playbook for router 3 is generated. We go into router 3 here and then execute the playbook. So first, bubbling logs in. When bubbling logs in, after that it configures the loopback interfaces and the EIGRP, and then goes on to form configure OSPF. So now we can see EIGRP adjacency has been established between router 2 and router 3. That's here. Okay, between router 2 and router 3, and other configurations are being completed. Okay, so and when we go into router 2 here, we can see that okay, so EIGRP established between router 3 and router 2 as well. So we can check show IP protocol to see the routing protocols configured. Okay, and we can see over here we have EIGRP configured and the networks configured as well, and we have OSPF here configured as well, and the corresponding networks. So show IP interface brief also shows us that the 2 loopback interfaces have been correctly configured. Okay, so have been correctly configured. So let's go back to our output here, as the playbook for router 4 has been generated. So we can see that in this case ChatGPT made use of what is called Ginger template, to provide some of the configurations, and which is quite different from the other routers. So we will see what the result will look like here as well for router 4. So let's go on and execute. All right, so execution goes on. Bubbling logs into router 4 and then configures each of the interfaces. Okay, configures each of the interfaces, and that is it. We now have OSPF adjacency established between R3 and R4. So now, to verify that all configurations are correct, we can just simply show IP route on router 4, and the expectation is all these networks attached to R1, R2 and R3 should be on the IP routing table for R4. So we'll just quickly run through it. Let's expand it. Okay, Alright, so here we have the complete table, and the first network here is 172.168.1.0, which is on R1. Okay, which is on R1. That's this network here. All right, then the next is 192.168.2.0, which is the network between R2 and R3. Following that is 192.168.4.0. Okay, oh sorry, that is static. Yep, so this is the route, what's it called, the OSPF discovered one. So 4.0, which is this network over here. Yeah, so we have the 4.0 also on the routing table, which is the network between R2 and R3. Then next we have 192.168.10.1, which is this network over here on loopback 1. Okay, next is 20.0. Okay, 20.0, which is the loopback 1 interface. Then we have 30.0, 40.0, 50.0, which is 30.0, 40.0, 50.0, and finally we have 60.0 over here. Okay, 60.0, which is attached to R1. It's actually so that's all the what's it called, routing networks, being discovered by R4. And when we go to R1, okay, we expect that all the networks show IP route. So the expectation is that all the networks attached to R2, R3, and R4 should be discovered by it. So we just quickly go through those. The first network advertised through external OSPF is 192.4.0, which is this network over here. Okay, and next we have 192.168.6.0, which is this network between router 3 and router 4. And next we have 192.168.30.40.50.60.70 and .80.1, which is 3040, the loopback interfaces to R2, 5060, the loopback interfaces to R3, and 7080, which are the loopback interfaces for R4. And this has taken us a total of 462 seconds to execute, including 30 seconds of time for inputting the configurations, and 368 seconds for generating the playbooks, and 63 seconds for executing the playbook. Thank you so much, and we'll see you during the third experiment. Bye for now.